Welcome everybody to BYU's 2025-2026 International Information Session. This informational video will be helpful for all of our international applicants as well as any other applicants who have any kind of international background. My name is Melissa and I'll be walking you through this video. So on today's agenda, we'll talk through several helpful things. First, we're going to start off with BYU's application process, focusing specifically on possible international differences that you might see in your application. Then we'll talk about what BYU looks for in an application, including some hot application tips. And then we'll go through paying for school, a little bit about life at BYU, and then some resources for you both through your application process and as a BYU student. All right, let's get started with BYU's application. Our application can be found at apply.byu.edu. We use the same application for all of our applicants, including domestic and international. And so this is the process that everybody is going to go through. First, you'll start off with your profile, kind of your personal information, background, things like that. And then you'll link a church account to your application. Every applicant will do this, whether or not you're a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or not. If you have questions about this, the application will walk you through step-by-step on how to link a church account. Then you'll fill out your educational history and then complete your honor code agreement, endorsement interviews, and recommendations. And then you'll complete some essays and activities questions. And then some of you, depending on your background, may or may not need to submit a test score or two. And then finally, there's a $35 application fee and submission. So first, let's talk about some possible international differences on your application. There are four main areas where you might see some differences. The first is reporting international schoolwork or reporting international programs like IB, Cambridge, things like that. Then we'll also talk about English proficiency exams, and then we'll touch briefly on some immigration information and requirements that you might face after your application process. So first, let's talk about reporting international schoolwork. All non-US accredited secondary education and college work must be evaluated before that information is sent to BYU. We use two different companies, IERF or TEC. TEC was formerly known as Bantran. We'll accept evaluations from either of these companies, and there's detailed information on our website on how to start an application with them. Please do not send any non-US transcripts directly to BYU. We're not able to use those, and it would be a waste of your time and money. So don't send those. Go straight to the evaluation companies. In worst case scenarios, these evaluations can take up to 2 to 3 months to complete, but ideally, on average, we see them completed between 2 to 4 weeks. But still, just to avoid any issues of missing deadlines or things like that, we would encourage you to start this evaluation process as soon as possible, at least 2 or 3 months in advance of any BYU deadlines. If you've attended an international program where these programs are located in multiple countries, you'll need to look carefully to see if your school is international or has US accreditation or not. Some international schools, especially those who are on US military bases, do have US accreditation. There are a handful of others out there that do as well. But many of these international schools, including Cambridge and IB World Schools, do not have US accreditation, and those do need to be evaluated. So please check carefully with your school to see if it's US accredited or not, to see if you need to submit an evaluation. The exception to this is the full IB diploma. If you have attended an IB World School that is not US accredited, but you have completed the full IB diploma and you have your scores in your hands at the time of application, that is considered US accredited, and we can help you report that on your application. In order to do that, you'll need to reach out to us directly for instructions. You can submit a case, or you can reach out to the international rep directly for help with that. If you have completed some US accredited schoolwork, either internationally or in the United States, you'll report your schoolwork a little bit differently. On our application, you can self-report US accredited high school work. So first, on our application, on the high school page where you fill out your high school information, it will ask you all the different types of schooling that you've attended. So if you attended a US private or public or charter school that is US accredited, you can make that selection. Or if you attended an international school that has US accreditation, you can select the International Secondary Education option, and then answer yes to the question asking if you've completed any US accredited secondary educational work. If you do that, then you'll see a new requirement pop up on your application. It's the transcript page where you can self-report your high school work. If you have attended a U.S. accredited school your entire education, you can report all of your schoolwork on this page. However, if some of your schoolwork was done internationally at a non-U.S. school, you should not report those years on your application. So as you can see, on that page, under every year of high school, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th, it'll ask you if you completed non-U.S. accredited schoolwork or not. So if, for example, for your 9th and 10th grade, you did that internationally at a non-U.S. accredited school, you'll say that, yes, I completed non-U.S. accredited schoolwork this year, and then you will not report your schoolwork on this page. Instead, you'll provide us with an evaluation. But for those years that you did attend a U.S. accredited school, you can say that you did not complete any non-U.S. accredited schoolwork and report your grades and your classes directly on this page. Again, all of these instructions are listed clearly on these application pages, so as long as you follow the instructions, you should be okay. All right, now let's talk about English proficiency. BYU will require an English proficiency exam score from non-native English-speaking applicants, as well as some applicants from countries where English is one of many languages spoken or where the style of English spoken in your country differs significantly from American-style English. So if you see the English proficiency score requirement on your application, know that it is required for you. These are the accepted tests that BYU accepts, the TOEFL, IELTS, PTE or Pearson, and the Cambridge English exams. Please note that each of these companies offers several levels of English proficiency tests, so please make sure that you visit our website so that you know exactly which versions of the tests that you can submit for your BYU application. We'd also like to point out that in order to present a competitive BYU application, your English proficiency score should meet the minimums as listed on our website. And this includes the minimums in each skill section as well as the overall score. So if your score falls below our minimum requirements, you're still welcome to submit your application with that test score, but just know that it's unlikely that you would be admitted. So we would encourage you to retest, build up your scores, test again, and submit a score that meets those minimums in order to present a more competitive BYU application. We'd also like to note that meeting the minimum score on the English requirement does not guarantee admission to BYU. It's one of many requirements that we look through. And then finally, please know that all test scores expire after 2 years. This includes the Cambridge English exam. The Cambridge English exam people don't impose an expiration date on their score, but for BYU, we do have a 2-year expiration date for the Cambridge as well as all of our other English proficiency exam scores. So make sure that your score won't expire before you submit your application. All right, now here's some immigration information and requirements that are helpful to know in advance. These requirements will not be required at the time of application, but if you are admitted, these are some requirements that you're going to have to complete before you're able to enroll in classes and obtain a visa. So it's helpful to know about these in advance so you can plan. The first is a $4,000 international student deposit. This is kind of a financial safety net for you to use as a BYU student while you're here. If you run into financial difficulties, you can draw upon this money. It is yours. If you don't use this money while you're a student at BYU, it will be returned to you when you graduate or when you leave BYU. You'll also need to submit financial verification, meaning that you'll need to provide proof that you have access to the amount of money of BYU's cost of attendance for 2 semesters, and I'll show you that in just a minute. And then finally, if you're currently in the United States on a student visa and have an I-20 form, you'll need to submit an I-20 transfer form to BYU. So here's that financial verification that I talked about and the cost of attendance. As you can see, the total cost of attendance will vary depending on whether you're a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints or not, as well as if you live on campus or off campus. So depending on your situation, you can pick out the cost of your total cost of attendance, what you can expect, and plan for that. Many of our international students have sponsors to help them with this financial verification. You're welcome to have as many sponsors as you need to add up to this total cost of attendance. They can be anyone you want them to be. They can be family, friends, employers, anyone who's willing to help you with your school costs. All right, now let's transition a little bit and talk about what BYU looks for in an application, and we'll include some application tips. The first important thing to know is that BYU uses a holistic review on our application. This means that we're looking at your application as a whole, every single part, not just individual sections. These sections include the academic preparation, your essays and activity responses, recommendations, your seminary and/or institute attendance, and English proficiency if that's required for you. So up next, we have a video that will talk a little bit more about some of the qualities that we're looking for in all of these sections of your application.
What makes a great BYU student? There is no checklist or magic formula to getting into BYU, but here are some pointers. As you prepare to apply to BYU, don't forget to consider our mission and aims. There are 4 aims to a BYU education. Spiritually strengthening. We recommend attending, participating in, and graduating from seminary. Participate in other activities that will strengthen your testimony of Jesus Christ and prepare you to learn in an environment that is rooted in the gospel. Intellectually enlarging. To be prepared academically, we recommend you take challenging college preparatory classes during high school. Pursue your passions inside and outside of the classroom. Character building. A person of character should have a strong work ethic and be able to demonstrate resilience and honesty. You should be respectful of others despite differences, honor commitments, and have integrity in all you do. Lifelong learning and service. We look for students that already have a love of learning and a sincere desire to serve others. Cultivate your love of service through sustained exposure to meaningful service opportunities. If you want to be considered, you have to apply. Take the time necessary to present your best self.
All right, so those were the aims of a BYU education, and they are very important to our application review. So we'd strongly encourage you to try to highlight your experiences in each of these sections throughout your BYU application, especially in the essays, which we'll talk about in a minute. All right, another hot tip is to start early. As you've probably gathered by now, we do have a pretty extensive application that does take time, especially if you need to submit an evaluation of your international schoolwork or an English proficiency exam. Those can take several weeks to get together, so start early on those and start early on your application. It's also helpful to give your recommenders time to fill out your recommendation. If you wait till right up to the deadline and they're not able to fill out their recommendation before the deadline, you'll be out of luck. And so make sure that you give your recommenders time to complete that recommendation for you well before the deadline. We'd also encourage you to spend quality time writing your essays. They are a very important piece of our holistic review. They're where we get to know you as a person. And so please make sure that you take time to write really strong BYU essays. So let's talk about those essays a little bit. As I mentioned, they are very important to our holistic review. So here are some tips to writing strong BYU essays. So because BYU is a religious institution, we do look for qualities that are a little bit different than some of your other colleges and universities that you may be applying to. And so again, the aims of a BYU education will be central to what we're looking for. And then as you're writing your essays, here are some additional tips to keep in mind. Make sure that you're answering the full prompt or question. Many of our essay prompts have multiple parts, so make sure that you're answering each part of every essay prompt. We'd also encourage you to write about more recent experiences, as those are more reflective of who you are today. We also encourage you to avoid repetition, meaning don't talk about the same experience over and over in multiple essays. Try to highlight as much of you and as much of your experiences as you can in your application. So if you wrote about one passion or experience in one essay, make sure to write about something different in the next one. Of course, proofread your essays. Good spelling and grammar is always a good thing. And then please just be genuine. We really want to get to know who you are. So your voice, your tone, your passions, share that with us in your essays. And please do not plagiarize. Do not let anyone else write any portion of your essay. Do not take ideas or writing from anyone else. And please do not use generative AI as well as you write your essays. We want these to be directly from you because that's how we get to know you. All right, next up are the endorsements and recommendations. If you're unfamiliar with what an endorsement is, these are essentially interviews with religious leaders. For our application, you'll meet with 2 religious leaders. If you're a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, first you're going to meet with your bishop, and then you'll meet with a member of your stake presidency. If you're not a member of the church, your first interview, you have 2 options. You can meet with your own church leader, your own religious leader, or if you don't have one or are uncomfortable meeting with them, you're welcome to reach out to one of our local bishops, and they would be happy to help you with your endorsement. Once you complete that first interview, then you'll be contacted by BYU's university chaplain, and he will set up an interview to do your second interview. All right. Then the recommendations. These will vary depending on your background. Our application is adaptive, so some of these may appear a little bit later on as you fill out your background. So the first is seminary. If you're currently enrolled in seminary, this will be a requirement for you. You'll have to ask your seminary teacher to submit a recommendation. Then, if you're currently in high school or recently graduated from high school, you'll need to submit a high school teacher recommendation as well. This teacher should have taught you in your 11th or 12th grade, or depending on your educational system, your last 2 years of your secondary education. And it should be a teacher who taught you in a core subject, so math, science, English, or social science. However, if you're a non-native English speaker, we would encourage you to select someone who's not an English teacher, since that would be considered a foreign language for you. And then finally, everybody will be required to submit an other recommendation. This other person can be anybody you want them to be, as long as they're not related to you. So in order to pick the best person to write all of these recommendations, I would encourage you to look at the recommendation section on our website. We actually list out all the questions that we ask each recommender, and so you can look through those questions, and then based on those questions, pick the person who's best suited to answer those questions for you. Okay, now the ACT and SAT. Currently, the ACT and SAT is optional for most of our applicants. Depending on your educational background, it may or may not be required. Typically, it is only required for those who spent significant amount of their high school or secondary education in homeschool. But to know for sure if it's required, you can just look at your application once we have received your full academic history, including any evaluations that are required. Then the ACT and SAT requirement will show as optional or required for you at that point. If you have questions about whether or not you should submit a score, if you think that it's reflective of your academic ability and could help you in your application, go ahead and submit it. All right, we do still get asked, of course, what are your averages? What does the typical admitted student have? And so here are a few statistics from our last application cycle from spring, summer, and fall 2025. So these are the middle 50% of our admitted freshmen from last year. They had an ACT between 28 to 32, SAT between 1300 to 1430, and a GPA between 3.86 to 4.0. Again, this is the middle 50% of our admitted applicants, so 25% of our admitted applicants had lower scores than this, and 25% had higher. All right, if you need help throughout your application process, please reach out. We would love to help you. First, I would point you to our admissions website, admissions.byu.edu. It's a wealth of information. Everything that you need to know should be there. I would highlight especially our international applicants page, as well as the applying tab and the contact us button at the very bottom of all of our application pages. That'll have a lot of information for you, as well as multiple ways to reach out for help. Hub.byu.edu is another place where you can submit a support case. Cases are great. They will always get to the best person to answer that question. and that's a great way to submit kind of a more complex question for us. There are also representatives assigned to every Utah high school, every state in the United States, and we also have an international rep, and you can find that information for those reps at reps.byu.edu. You can set up a meeting with them, email them, ask them questions directly, and they'd be happy to help. We'd also encourage you to sign up for our mailing list at signup.byu.edu. We send out a lot of helpful tips and reminders through that system that can help you through your application process. Okay, now it's time to shift gears again. Let's talk about paying for school. Because the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints sponsors BYU and is strongly invested in education, they've been able to keep tuition very low. So at the top you can see for one semester, BYU LDS tuition is $3,444 for this upcoming year. Compared to the average in-state public tuition, and especially the average private tuition, you can see that this is a great deal. However, we know that there's still a lot to pay for, and so we do offer scholarships. BYU does offer several scholarships that you can apply for. We have an easy one-stop scholarship application where you can apply and be considered for any scholarship that you're qualified for or may be eligible for. The only exception to this are department-specific scholarships like athletics or music or things like that. If you're interested in those, please reach out to those colleges directly. We also would encourage you to look for off-campus scholarships that are not sponsored by BYU. Our International Student Scholar Services Office in particular has a list of scholarships that many of their international students apply for. That could be a great alternative place to look for funding. Many of our students also work on campus. International students are also allowed to work at BYU. And in fact, over 50% of our students work on campus. There are so many different jobs available, and this is a great way to get experience and to also help pay for your school. And as a fun tip, statistics have shown that on average, those that work also have better grades. So consider working at BYU. All right, now let's talk a little bit about life at BYU, what we have to offer. Up next, I'll be showing you a video that introduces a little bit about BYU, both inside and outside the classroom.
Studying at BYU provides a truly unique experience, combining both faith and learning in one of the world's largest award-winning private universities. We have over 180 majors, including several of the most highly rated programs in the nation. With the full 6 floors of resources, the Harold B. Lee Library is considered one of the nation's top university libraries. No matter what you love to study, BYU has everything you need to thrive. BYU offers a feast of opportunities and experiences. And because we're located in the beautiful heart of Provo, Utah, there's so much more you can enjoy here. The Wilkinson Student Center is home to many of our student services, as well as the BYU store, recreation areas, and an amazing selection of restaurants. Located conveniently close to on-campus housing, the Cannon Commons is one of several great options across campus for your meal plan. And we can't forget about our fan-favorite creamery, where you can fuel up before the big game! Provo is home to so many amazing food and art venues, and it's also known as the youngest city in the U.S. BYU is perfectly situated right at the foot of the Wasatch Mountains, providing quick access to several scenic canyons, with tons of great hiking, climbing, exploring, and much more. And if you want to try something new, you can rent just about any gear here at BYU Outdoors Unlimited. Weekly devotionals and forums provide an opportunity for the student body to gather and learn together. We hear messages from leaders of the church as well as world-renowned scholars from around the globe. BYU is also located in the most temple-rich area of the world, so peace and inspiration are never far away. Are you ready for your next adventure? BYU has you covered. We can't wait to see where your BYU journey takes you.
All right, hopefully you enjoyed that video and got a great insight into what BYU has to offer. A few things that we really like to highlight are, first of all, our spiritual environment. Not only do we have a great spiritual environment on campus, we're also very close to some temples. One is currently under construction, but we have a second Provo temple as well as an Orem temple and several others in Utah Valley that you can go to. We also have weekly devotionals. Every Tuesday, the whole campus shuts down and we get to go hear a spiritual message from either church leaders or our BYU professors or staff. And we also have student wards or young single adult wards in the area that you can participate in as well. This is a great opportunity to serve and to learn and to grow spiritually with your fellow students. We also have a lot of fun things going on campus, including our multicultural student services activities. Every year they put on some great festivals. We've got a fiesta, a luau, powwow, perspectives evening. A lot of great ways to celebrate different cultures and have fun. BYU's classes are also pretty great. First of all, I want to go over some terminology in case you're from outside of the United States and are maybe unfamiliar with some of the terms that we use. Majors and minors, these are the areas that you're going to study. Your major is your primary area of study, and a minor can be a smaller add-on area of study. The way our course numbers and credits work is 100 and 200 level courses like Psychology 102 and Earth Science 201. Those are the more lower level classes that you'll take as freshmen or sophomores or as a general education course. And then the 300 and 400 level courses are the more rigorous, more advanced courses that you'll take probably as a junior or senior. And then our credits kind of say the weight or the degree of difficulty or time needed to complete those classes. Your average class will be about 3 credits, with easier classes like bowling, I think, is a 1 credit class, or more rigorous classes that take a lot more work and time as a 4 credit class. So that's kind of how that system works. And then BYU also has some open and limited enrollment programs and classes. Open enrollment means that anybody can take that class or declare that major, whereas limited enrollment means that you're going to have to fulfill some prerequisites and or apply directly to a program. So if you see on your majors list, or if you're looking through and you see an asterisk that says limited enrollment, just know that there will be some additional requirements before you can take that class or before you can enroll in that program. We also have a pretty great student-teacher ratio, 21 to 1, 21 students to 1 professor. That allows for a great, a lot of personal attention, some really great learning environments. We do have some very large classes in some of our GEs, but especially once you get into your major, you'll definitely have some smaller, more intimate classes. If you're curious about what majors and programs BYU has to offer, majors.byu.edu is a comprehensive list of everything that we offer. We also have a great resource called majorsnippets.byu.edu where you can go and watch short videos recorded by the majority of our majors and programs so that they can introduce what the major is like, what types of work that they do, and even what types of jobs sometimes their students get after they graduate. It's a great resource if you're looking for something to study. We also have a philosophy at BYU called Inspiring Learning, where we like to study through study and faith. especially with hands-on experiences. Some of the ways that we involve our students more deeply in their work is through research opportunities with their professors, internships, as well as study abroad programs. There are a lot of different ways to get really enriched, vibrant experiences outside of the classroom as well as inside of the classroom. Up next, we've got a video introducing how inspiring learning works at BYU.
So when I think of inspiring learning, I think of the kind of learning that is not just a coincidence. It's deeper than just absorbing knowledge or just receiving knowledge.
Field research and being involved in mentored research has had a tremendous impact on my life. But also the process of learning is inspiring. It's a joy to be a part of this kind of learning and this kind of devotion to learning.
So when I think of inspired learning, I think of learning in the Lord's way, in not just academic learning, but learning for life.
So I think that's what inspiring learning really is being able to learn here at BYU, but take it everywhere else we go.
For me, it's utterly critical to bring students out into the field, and we look for every opportunity that we can to do that. That's what they're used to. That's what they know how to do, is get up close to it and experience it and understand it. That's the way they can really undergo this inspiring learning experience at BYU.
BYU gives so many opportunities to students that seek them and find them, and so without this institution and without the Ballard Center, we wouldn't have been able to have this opportunity to become involved in a social issue and in a social innovation. It was really taking what I had learned at BYU and using that knowledge to address an issue that affects lives.
BYU has amazing support for undergraduate and graduate students. Inspiring learning for me is going out into the field with students, having unexpected things happen, like your station just got washed away because there was a debris flow. All of a sudden you've internalized what an ecosystem disturbance is. As long as we're paying attention, that changes our worldview and how we contribute to the global community.
They take a problem that's hard and then they have to put into practice. And by doing that, they learn more things, both technically from the problem itself, but also they learn things about themselves.
It's taught me a lot about perseverance and the joy that comes from seeing those difficult problems be solved.
They are stretched, hopefully, and then they also learn things about the Lord. I think building those skills up in students is essential, and I think that's inspiring learning.
BYU's encouragement to go outside of the classroom and explore what is really out there is phenomenal. I love the opportunity. I love the experiences, because I will not be who I am if not for the courage and the encouragement that I have gotten from professors and just the opportunity students have to get out there and learn and serve.
I feel like everybody has inside hidden a talent, personal gift that they might not even be aware of, and inspiring learning helps us discover those gifts.
Okay, let's talk about some resources. We get a lot of questions about housing. We do have several on-campus as well as off-campus options. Our housing requirements recently changed in the past few years, where first-year students may live either on campus or in BYU-approved off-campus housing. For any housing questions, we would direct you to our housing department. housing.byu.edu is their website. They will be the best people to answer any housing questions for you. If you're planning on serving a mission, either before you attend BYU or sometime during your college experience, we would still encourage you to apply to BYU during your last year of your secondary education, and then just defer whenever you get your mission call. Filling out a deferment is pretty easy. You just submit a one-page online form with your mission information, and then everything will be held for you. Your place at BYU, any BYU-sponsored scholarships, that'll be on hold until you come back from your mission. And then here's some more resources for students on campus, and these are focused on more of our academic resources. They include teachers' assistants, tutors, first-year mentors, academic advisors, career exploration or career studio. There's so many people on campus to help you be successful professionally and academically. Never feel hesitant to reach out for help. Everybody's here wanting to help you. We also have some additional resources for student life for mental, physical, social well-being. Our International Student Scholar Services Office and their advisors are fantastic, especially if you're an international student. They make sure that you're always in good standing with your visa, that you're meeting all the proper requirements. We also have a student wellness organization, the Office of Belonging, CAPS, which is our Cognitive and Psychological Services Office. All of these resources are free. They're here to help support you in your BYU journey. And then we'd also encourage you to take a tour at BYU. If you're not able to make it to campus in person, we also offer virtual tours. This is a great way to see campus, to learn more about it, to catch a glimpse into the everyday life of our BYU students, to ask questions, and to just see yourself at BYU. So we hope that you'll consider taking that tour as well. All right, we made it to the end. Thank you so much for being here with us. We hope that this was helpful information. And again, if you have any questions or need help throughout, please reach out to our office. We'd be more than happy to help. We hope to see you here on BYU campus one day soon. Thanks.